I don't know if everybody does this. Maybe it's just me. Or, no, actually, no. It can't just be me. There's no way I'm the only person who's ever had an entire argument without saying a single word. Well, for me, it always happens at night. When I'm finally in bed, the room's dark, and the only thing I can hear is the AC humming. Everything is quiet, my phone is down, and I'm comfortable. And that's somehow the exact moment my brain decides. You remember that argument from earlier? Yeah, we're doing that again. I don't know why it always waits until then. I mean, it could have reminded me while I was eating, while I was in the shower, while I was playing, literally any other time. But no. The second my head touches the pillow, it's like my brain clocks in for its night shift. Sometimes it's an argument I had that day. Sometimes it's something that happened a few weeks ago. Sometimes it's a conversation that never even happened. And somehow my brain treats all of them exactly the same. Like they're happening right in front of me. You know what's weird? The version in my head is always better than the real one. I never forget what I wanted to say. Nobody cuts me off halfway through. And I don't get frustrated and suddenly forget my own point. Everything comes out exactly the way I want it or the way I meant it. If I think I'm right, I explain it perfectly. Not because I'm trying to win. I don't think that's ever been the point, but I just want them to understand why I felt the way I did. And in my head, they actually do. Sometimes they apologize, and sometimes they just stop for a second and go. You know what? I never thought about it like that. Something like that. Which almost never happens in real life. Real arguments are messy and people interrupt each other. Someone gets defensive or someone misunderstands what you meant. Halfway through you're already thinking about the next thing you want to say instead of listening. But in my head, everything goes exactly how I wanted it to. Now, if I'm the one who's wrong, it's completely different. Then I'm not defending myself anymore. I'm rehearsing an apology. Trying to figure out the right words. Thinking, was that too much? Was that enough? Would they even believe me? It's kind of funny. Even inside conversations that don't exist, I'm still overthinking. Sometimes I'm calm, sometimes I'm yelling, sometimes I'm explaining everything like I'm defending a thesis paper, which is ridiculous. Imagine giving out a PowerPoint presentation to someone who isn't even there. Other times, I don't even care about making a good point anymore. I just keep thinking, I wish you understood. And that's usually when I realize maybe the conversation isn't even about being right. Maybe it's just about wanting to feel understood. The weird thing is, those conversations never really end. They just change. I'll replay it one way, then another, then another. Like my brain hired 10 different directors to remake the same movie. Maybe I should have said this instead. No, that sounds stupid. Actually, what if I had just stayed quiet? Then it starts all over again. Same people, same argument, different version. Over and over again. It's exhausting. Sometimes I catch myself thinking, why am I still doing this? The argument ended hours ago. Nobody else is thinking about it anymore. Meanwhile, I'm lying in bed, 1 in the morning, giving an award-winning performance to my ceiling, and somehow I'm losing. You know what the strangest part is? The next day, I usually act completely normal. I'll see that person, we'll talk, maybe we'll even laugh about something completely unrelated. If you saw us, you would probably think nothing ever happened, and they'd have absolutely no idea that I spent half the night arguing with a fictional version of them. Meanwhile, in my head, we've already had like 30 different conversations. And the weird thing is, by the next morning, the argument's usually over. We're talking again. Everything's normal. Life just kind of keeps moving. So, bringing it back up doesn't really feel right anymore. It almost feels selfish, like I just be reopening something we've both already walked away from. So, I don't. I never bring it up, and all those perfect sentences that I came up with the night before, the explanations, the comebacks, the apology, whatever it was, they just stay there. Not because I stopped caring, but because life kept moving. And eventually, I forget the words. I remember how I felt. I remember being frustrated, hurt, or guilty. But I can't remember the speech I spent 2 hours putting together in my head. It's weird. One night it feels like the most important conversation I'll ever have, and then one day later, I couldn't even tell you what I wanted to say anymore. It's almost like my brain rented out an entire theater overnight. Put on this huge performance, every line was rehearsed, every emotion felt real. There was standing ovation, curtains closed. Then by morning, the whole place is empty again, like it never happened. Sometimes those conversations hit harder though, especially when someone I love, my parents, my girlfriend, the people that matter the most. I think that's why those are the hardest ones to let go of. Because when it's someone you care about, you're not just trying to prove a point, you're trying not to lose them. Sometimes, if it's bad enough, I'll just lie there staring at the ceiling, listening to the AC, making another version, then another one, then another one. Changing one sentence, changing how they respond or how I respond, trying to find a version where everything somehow works out. Sometimes I even cry. Not because I want another argument. Honestly, it's usually the opposite. It's because I care so much about that person that I'm terrified I'll say the wrong thing, or maybe I already did, and now I'm trying to fix it inside my own head, where nobody can get hurt, nobody can interrupt me, where nobody can misunderstand what I meant. It's safe there. Well, at least it feels safe. I wonder how many people actually do this. How many people have apologized without the other person ever hearing it? How many people have defended themselves without saying a word? How many people have forgiven someone inside their own head? Well, that person never even knew there was something to forgive. I think we all fight these little invisible battles, the kind nobody else ever sees. Sometimes I wonder if someone handed me a button and told me that pressing it would make every conversation I've ever rehearsed actually happen. Would I press it? Honestly, no. Not even close. I'd probably hide it or smash it with a hammer, which doesn't even make sense because if I've spent all this time imagining these conversations, shouldn't I want to have them? Apparently not, because the second they become real, they stop being safe. In my head, people listen, they understand, they let me finish. Real life doesn't work like that. They might interrupt me, they might get angry, or they might completely misunderstand what I was trying to say. Or maybe they'll understand perfectly. And I'll realize I should have just said something in the first place. I think that's the part that really scares me the most. It's not really the argument, it's the uncertainty. Because as long as the conversation stays in my head, I still get to control how it ends. Real conversations don't give you that luxury. Maybe I don't actually want a conversation. Maybe I just want the feeling to go away. All those imaginary arguments aren't my brain trying to prepare me for something. Maybe they're just my brain trying to make peace with something. that it never got to say. Well, I don't really know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe everyone does this. Maybe nobody does. All I know is there's a pretty good chance that tonight I'll get into bed, the room will be dark, the AC will be humming, and I'll finally get comfortable. And right when I think I'm about to fall asleep, my brain's going to say, "Hey, remember that thing you were finally starting to forget? Yeah, let's talk about it."